Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the fascinating unseen forces that dictate your daily choices and behaviors. You know, we all navigate our lives assuming we're fully conscious, rational beings calling all the shots. But honestly, there's an entire operating system running quietly in the background. You probably think you're totally in control of your decisions, right? Just cruising through your day, kind of like two hedgehogs meeting on a path. But beneath the surface, there are actually 7 invisible forces acting on you literally right now. These are the laws of human nature, and they influence absolutely everything, from what you buy on a whim to how you handle a frustrating coworker to whether or not you actually achieve your biggest goals. To make these abstract laws super actionable for your daily routine, we're breaking them down into 5 quick themes. 1. Invisible forces controlling you. 2. How we value things. 3. The reality you create. 4. Others are your mirror. And 5. The path to results. Okay, let's jump straight into section 2, how we value things. This is all about perception, because your brain never evaluates anything in a total vacuum. This brilliantly illustrates our first force, the contrast law. Notice how the exact same size apple looks completely different depending on what it's sitting next to. Put it by a tiny pebble and it looks massive. But place that exact same apple next to a giant boulder and suddenly it's tiny. We see everything as relative and absolutely nothing as absolute. Think about how this directly applies to your daily choices, like the last time you went shopping. A $100 shirt feels pretty expensive on its own. But if you walk into a high-end boutique and see it next to a $500 jacket, boom, suddenly that $100 shirt feels like a bargain. Context is everything. Your brain judges value purely against whatever is placed right next to it. The big takeaway here, you have to aggressively control what you place yourself, your products, and your time next to. Moving to our next external force, we hit the scarcity law. A single, lone apple hanging on a totally barren tree instantly becomes precious. This highlights a fundamental truth. We are hardwired to want what we can't easily get. The second something becomes less available, desire shoots through the roof. Think about it. You'd probably ignore the perfectly good, free apples falling in your own backyard, but you'll gladly stand in the freezing cold for 4 hours for a limited edition pair of shoes. It's the exact same psychology. Once the brain labels something as rare, it immediately labels it as valuable. And you can totally use this in your own routine. If you're always available at work, instantly replying to every single email the second it drops, your time is perceived as way less valuable. Make yourself and your time rare, because availability literally kills desire. All right, section 3, the reality you create. If the first 2 laws dictate how the outside world influences you, these next ones are all about how your internal focus actually builds your daily reality. The attention law dictates that energy flows wherever your focus goes. Just like a magnifying glass focusing a beam of sunlight to start a fire, your brain is basically a recording device that only captures and amplifies whatever you actively pay attention to. Let's apply this to a typical Tuesday morning. If you wake up looking for reasons why your commute is going to be miserable, the traffic, the weather, the rude drivers, oh, you will absolutely find them. But if you shift that magnifying glass and focus on opportunity, you suddenly spot open doors that everyone else is just walking right past. It's a biological fact of your brain's reticular activating system. What you water grows, and what you ignore withers. Which builds right into our next concept, the identity law. You act exactly as the person you truly believe you are. It's almost like being trapped inside a heavy, inflexible suit of iron. Your identity completely dictates your boundaries. This right here is arguably one of the most powerful concepts in this entire explainer. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. Every single action you take today is just a vote for who you believe you are. If you set a goal to run a marathon, but internally identify as a lazy person who hates cardio, that heavy armor is going to drag you back down. If you want to change your habits, your bank account, or your health, you literally have to rewrite the internal story first. Now, before we look at how to interact effectively with everyone else, ask yourself something. Why does a specific, seemingly minor habit of a coworker or a family member drive you absolutely crazy while someone else wouldn't even notice it? Well, the answer to that is in section 4, others are your mirror. It turns out our interpersonal relationships are completely reflective, not objective. This brings us to the mirror law, which reveals a slightly uncomfortable truth. What you see in others actually lives inside you. Here's how you can actually use this. Next time someone deeply frustrates you in a morning meeting, maybe they're being overly bossy or completely disorganized, just take a step back. The traits that irritate you the absolute most in other people are almost always the traits you haven't accepted or have actively suppressed in yourself. People are just mirrors. By paying close attention to your strongest, most irrational reactions, you get a free roadmap right to your own internal baggage. So we understand our perceptions, our internal focus, and our reflections, but how do we actually execute? That's section 5, the path to results. To get real results, we absolutely have to respect the compounding law. Just like a tiny snowball rolling down a massive hill until it becomes an unstoppable boulder, tiny advantages turn into enormous gaps over time. The math behind this is completely staggering. A mere 1% improvement doesn't feel like anything on a random afternoon. It's practically invisible. But if you strictly stick to it, mathematically, it makes you 37 times better in a single year. Not 37% better, 37 times better. The core lesson here totally destroys the myth of the overnight success. The difference between the absolute best in the world and the perfectly average isn't raw talent. It's exactly what they chose to do on a completely boring Tuesday. It's about committing to that tiny daily improvement, doing it even when the excitement fades, and letting the invisible force of time multiply your effort. Finally, we reach the climax of our framework with the 7th force, the detachment law. This one is notoriously hard to master. It dictates that to get something, you actually have to want it less. Look at the stark difference here. On one side, an opportunity rests peacefully, like a bird in an open palm. On the other, a fist aggressively grips, leaving nothing but crushed feathers. The tighter you squeeze something, whether it's a promotion at work, a new relationship, or a financial outcome, the more you suffocate and destroy it. Desperation totally repels success. And that brings us to our final thought. The ultimate formula is this: hold your goals loosely, work incredibly hard applying the laws of compounding and focus, but ultimately release the outcome. So as you walk away from this explainer today, I'm leaving you with this question. Are you going to continue to squeeze your goals to death, or are you finally ready to do the work, open your hand, and let go of the outcome?